From our FM studios, this is Radio Free Norfolk. In the small town of Langton, Ontario, a very large discussion was unfolding in the local community centre. The mayor and the local council members passed a controversial budget that raised the taxes 8.4%, while at the same time cutting a number of services. From museums to art centres, community halls and arenas, to changes in snow removal services, health and social services, and to potential changes to the access of municipal administrative office locations and how those services would be delivered, the budget and the changes have been quite controversial. The talk around many of the small communities of Norfolk is focused on the potential changes and how they might affect life for the residents and their families. And a lot of that talk fired people up. They started asking what they could do about the budget. They asked things like, why weren't they consulted, and why didn't they have a say in the changes that were underway? And some of those people started to organize, and a lot of the people started communicating to the mayor and the council very loudly. And that led to the community forums that are underway now.
Okay, everyone, I guess we're going to get going. Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out this evening, especially on such short notice. This is going to be the first of many to come, and I also want to give a special shout out and thank you to all those that have written in with a bunch of suggestions of other things that we can look at going forward. So the way this evening's going to go...
However, as all this was unfolding, former mayors were responding to the information that was coming out from county staff and the politicians. Dennis Trevally and Charlie Luke weighed in, Rita Kalmbach jumped in, and Roger Vermeulen had some things to say as well. We recently called Roger and asked if he would come and sit down with us for an interview. And on a Saturday evening recently, we asked him to share his views on the current situation. We opened up by asking Roger what he thought the West End wasn't receiving from Norfolk County.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a disparity in the voting to begin with, so we're kind of like the underdog in terms of when it's time for hands up, we're outnumbered. And it seems to be like in this particular council in particular, that our chances of getting something are going nowhere, and will continue to. So that's not a good thing. But what really set this thing off for me was I was kind of complacent like a lot of other people here, and things were happening at council, and I was reading a little bit in the paper, but I didn't hear anything about how bad things were economically, that there was hardly any reserve funds left. What's going to happen? There's going to be a big tax increase. I didn't hear about this. There was no inkling. All of a sudden, it came, and it shouldn't have, because that kind of information that should have been there before the election. Well, it was there before the election. The budget information. Anybody taking a look, could have said, "Holy mackerel! I didn't realize this outfit was in such bad shape."
One of the things that was confusing for Roger is while there was this focus on fixing the financial situation, there was also a large focus on acquiring land for a sports complex.
If the situation is that dire, and I'm not suggesting it isn't, then I can understand divesting yourself of things, perhaps, to help. But how do you do that at the same time as you're into a real estate deal to pay $3.2 million for a piece of land? They call it the hub. It's not the hub. Hub's the center of something. It's a piece of property far removed from the West End, from a lot of people even in the center of the township to go to. So looking at $3.2 million. Property changed hands in 2007 for $300,000. Now it's worth $3.29 million, or that's what they want to pay for it. And the purpose of it is to build, as I understand it, a $60 million sports facility. Okay? Now that project is still in the works at the council level. So you start to convince me and other people, wherever they are, that their little museum's going to close, their pool, their art center, maybe their town hall, maybe their arena is going to close, but we're going to spend at least $20 million in our own tax money, $40 million if it comes from other sources, to build a new facility. And we're in trouble. That's why we're selling your stuff, but we're still going to spend this kind of money so that we can build this for you, which we don't want. So my question to council and the mayor and everybody else behind this is that given the situation here, the financial situation, how can you justify, please tell me how you can justify an expenditure, a project like that, while at the same time you want to close the little pool here, maybe somebody else's arena, but you want two multi-million-dollar new ones. On top of that, they have a plan to move the senior citizens group onto the ice surface of one of the existing arenas. Now, how does that fit into the thing? You've got two arenas now, but pretty soon you're going to have one arena because you're going to make it into a senior center. It doesn't make any sense.
Another issue that Roger found concerning was the dam repair in Port Dover.
This really bothered me. They decided to, we've got all these problems. We can't afford the pool out there and so forth. But we can afford a $1.3 million repair job at the Dover Dam. And the rationale for that, according to them, if we don't leave this in the budget, our phone's going to ring off the hook. And I'm looking at this saying, wait a minute. You left this in because there's going to be a deluge of phone calls? Like, that's your job. That was my job. I mean, we did things that people weren't happy with, and my phone rang off the hook, and I didn't have any email in the process. And but anyway, both the budget chair and the mayor commented on that, oh my God, we've got to leave this in here. It's only $1.3 million because the phones are going to be ringing if we don't. People are going to be really upset. Well, that's your job, my friend.
We asked Roger what he thought people in the West End were looking for.
We've got our little halls. They're the fire halls, church, the odd church, the odd school, and that's the community. They've been used to that. That's all they want. Most of those facilities were built by local people through donations. Sure, there was some government help, but volunteers. My wife belongs to the group that are involved at the St. William's Community Center, and they're all volunteer people. County, I guess, pay for the hydro or heat or whatever, but the money they make there all goes back into the hall. They buy more equipment, they'll fix this, they'll fix that, and it operates kind of by itself almost. Now we're looking at maybe not having those places, or your little office in Langton, which probably wouldn't cost much to operate. It would provide some sort of a visual presence of Norfolk County, which pretty well you're not going to have, I guess. And now we still have the building in Delhi, but there's fewer and fewer people in it. And I wouldn't be surprised it's on somebody's hit list down the line, because they're paying over $1 million a year now on a new headquarters building here in Simcoe. The huge Taj Mahal, they call it, or some people do. Other people call it Travali's Follies. So anyway, it's $1 million a year to lease the space, and the county will never own the building. That's the kind of a deal they made. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
One of the last questions that I asked centered around the idea of economic development. Personally, I don't think we're going to be able to tax our way out of this issue, or we're not going to be able to cut our way out of this issue. I think we're going to have to grow out of this issue. And that might mean secondary plans for the urban centers to try and bolster the economies there and the property values to bring in more revenue that way. And that revenue can help support many of the smaller communities. So the question we asked Roger was, what are some of the other things you think the county should be doing other than taxing and cutting?
Well, that is a good question. I mean, one of the old traditional things you do is you try to approach the provincial people for more funding, or for more infrastructure funding, that sort of thing. Sometimes they will make exceptions, believe it or not. If you happen to be in dire straits and there's no alternative, you can only raise taxes so high, then you can get some help. Whether this is a possibility or not here, I don't know. But I think what's interesting to note, I don't know whether they've requested additional funding, under any of the programs. The only funding that I understand they've asked for is for the hub. So here we are. We have these dilemmas with water, sewer rates being sky high, facilities needing all kinds of work, and I would be concentrating on trying to get money for this. And in my mind, it'd be a heck of a lot easier to get, if you're going to get anything at all, that you would get it for these kinds of requirements than it is for a sports complex.
If you listen to the audio recording that we have available of the meeting at Langton, one thing you will notice that is missing is any talk, really, of economic development. There was lots of talk of finding efficiencies, shutting down facilities, and finding alternative ways of offering services. This is a key point that I think that was missed. One thing that we as members of the community need to be pressing the politicians and the county administration on is, what are they going to do about the economic development and the path forward? For the next episode, we're going to take the audio that we got at the Langton Community Forum, and we're going to do an analysis and share some of our thoughts on it.